Hello everyone, welcome to ATN. I'm your host, Ameet ATN, and we all know it's a tough job market out there for anyone, but especially for immigrants. So on today's show, we'll be sharing some helpful tips to help newcomers find meaningful work here in Canada. And to help us out, I've got recruiting expert Ameet ATN here. Well, first of all, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm good as well. So actually, let's get right into it. So, I watch the news, obviously. I hear what's happening out there. I keep an eye on the dollar and rates. So, I have an idea, but I want to know what it's like for immigrants, because who knows what the circumstances are for them coming to Canada. So would you mind maybe just painting a picture of right now, what is the job market like for new immigrants?
Well, job market has been, there's been a lot of immigrants in the last few years, a lot of individuals from various backgrounds, various experiences coming in to Canada. In the recent past few 2-3 years, really there has been a lot of competition in the market for certain positions, whether it's technology, engineering, finance, accounting, HR. There is the born and brought up Canadians in this market, and then you have the immigrants that are coming in this market. There is a competition in terms of the environment blending perspective. So the market's been evolving. There has been some downturns in 2008, as we all know. A lot of the areas within the finance sectors, and we had a conservative market, so we were kind of protected from the hit that US got. But things have been evolving, things have been changing, and I think right now the market is on the up. Whether it comes in the technology perspective, whether it comes in engineering perspective, it is a slow motion movement, but it goes ahead in its own strides at the times when it needs to be there.
So that's interesting because, we've been hearing about recent layoffs, right? We've been hearing about retail stores closing down.
Right.
And so, it's sometimes you wonder if it's a sign that maybe all sectors are suffering as well. So in your professional opinion, do you find that while we're hearing all these reports of all these major stores closing and leaving Canada, is that just maybe in the retail sector, but are other areas thriving?
Well, the retail sector, the US companies that were trying to evolve themselves within Canada were obviously trying to engulf the Canadian mindset in terms of this expense and expenditure area. What really the retail sector is it's a very versatile sector. The true Canadian tires and the Walmarts and all the big the big chains have the already competitive market that are gauged towards them, and they're loyal to them. Having a new area of Target coming in there, competing with the big chains, obviously impacts a lot of that areas of Canadians, and the Canadians would like to stick with the old methods of shopping rather than the new ones. So retail sector, yes, it is a little versatile, but considering that, I think there are various areas in the Canadian market where there's opportunities out there which are coming out all the time in different fields that can be explored and should be worked on.
Can we also talk about levels of position? So with most of the people you work with, do you find that they're applying for a variety of positions, like from entry level all the way up to senior levels, or is there a specific level of immigrants that are coming with a specific set of skills that you see most often?
See, from positions, they're obviously entry level, mid level, but the majority of the positions where the market is a little bit more active would be between 3 to 4 years of experience. The mid to junior, going into the senior pattern is where the core area is right now in Canada, and everyone is kind of in that zone at this current moment because the age trend between 25 to 40 lies within those experience ranges.
Okay, so maybe around middle management.
Middle management, yeah.
Okay, good to know. So, recruiting expert, that sounds really fancy. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what does your job mean? How do you help people?
Well, my job, when somebody says recruiting expert, I mean, really, you're never an expert. You're always learning in recruiting. For me, it's always about people. It's always about understanding the needs. It's understanding where they come from, the environment, the background, how they're trying to blend into Canada, where are they looking for the right opportunities, how should they approach those opportunities. There's so many different areas in recruitment. It's not just a resume came into an agency and you look at it and say, yeah, he's a great fit for a job, but really, is he? Because skill set can define just one area. There's the environment, there's a professional fit, there's the other various areas that we don't, as recruiters, take too much in-depth analysis on, because we're always looking for square peg, square hole. And that trend should change. And I guess this the reason why I'm saying this is because I came into Canada, and when I came here, the first question that they asked me is, do you have Canadian experience, in my interviews? And I was looking at them and saying, really? Do I need to have Canadian experience already? I'm trying to get Canadian experience, and that's why I'm there. And every individual you speak to who's an immigrant, they'll say, oh, we've been having a hard time, because every time we go for an interview, they ask, do you have Canadian experience? And what answer do you have for that? Your answer to that is that I want your experience, and that's why I'm here. It's not about Canadian experience. It's about experience for me to evolve in this country and be someone can create an impact in this business. So from a recruiting perspective, a lot of features come into place. Personal, interviewing skills, understanding the client's needs, the environment, understanding the focus of where the client really sees the candidate fitting in. So you need to get into depth to an R&D, get into their mindset so you can adapt that.
Interesting. Now, do you find that when you're doing this job, when employers are coming to you and saying, this is what we want, and then workers are coming to you and saying, this is what I'm looking for, is it realistic, or do you have to go back to some of the employers and say, listen, this is all the things that you say you want, but honestly, I think this is actually what you should be looking for, right? Because I'm sure they probably want somebody that has the most qualifications, like you're saying, has tons of Canadian experience, all these bells and whistles, but then, maybe at the end of the day, it's really about the personality. Maybe the environment there is actually going to dictate whether a success or not. So how do you help them with that?
Well, first of all, I always tell my peer colleagues and people that I work with in my company, and we have discussions, right? And there's some clients that would come across and say, hey, Ameet, I want someone in, say, technology at an unreasonable salary, and I need a lot of these skill sets to be involved with that, and we have to educate the clients. As a part of being a recruiter, you've got to maintain a transparency level with the clients and the candidates. You have to meet their expectations at a certain level. So you have to always challenge the clients. That's one part of the job that is on a pretty regular basis, because a client is looking at his budget, he's looking at the environment, he's looking at he's looking at all the skill sets in one, and he wants to have a jack of all trades, which is not always the way, you should be going. You should be looking at what is the real core areas you need the person in, and how can you adapt that individual in there. So.
It's like you're a matchmaker, but for the job environment. I love it. Well, we have lots to talk about, and you're going to actually give us some tips as well. So we're going to get to that. We got to take a little break. So folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to ATN. I'm your host, Ameet Dylan. Of course, we are sharing some HR tips for you today on helping immigrants find meaningful work in Canada. All right, so we have talked a little bit about what is the current job market out there, which sounds, it's pretty good. It's pretty decent, not to be too scared.
It's getting better.
Even though sometimes you hear some news reports, so it's good to hear that there are opportunities. So now let's go back now. We want to share some tips for immigrants. You know what, I'm always wondering, when somebody knows they're coming to, let's say, Canada, now, should they start applying for jobs when they're still, let's say, in India, and they're still, maybe a couple months away from coming?
What type of projects are involved, and then when you see something which is very critical to what they said, and you can directly communicate with them and apply for those positions with an edge over your direct competition. You should always do research before you apply for any job. Do not just look at the job spec and say, this is a great job for me. I know this is perfect on my resume. It's never perfect till you really understand the environment of the company, the person that hiring. I know a lot of the HR executives out there are obviously sniffing through those resumes, looking through those profiles, understanding the individuals, communicating with them on day-to-day basis. But if the candidates take further initiative going towards the positions and doing the research and talking to individuals that are in charge of that project, it gives so much ability for them to really get into that job because they would know what they're getting into and they're prepared going in for the interview. So that's one of the areas that I wanted to talk about.
Okay, so let's say they do their research, they're able to narrow down, let's say, the type of companies they want to work for and the type of positions they could go for. They now land here.
Yeah.
And now they're in, okay, I've landed here, I gotta start making some money, I gotta get my job. So then what's the next step for them? What would be their strategy, do you think?
The two strategies I would approach is obviously they have done some homework prior coming to Canada. They have obviously researched those companies that they have in mind that they want to target. They kind of know the individuals that are in those projects, which is very important. When they come here, the two things they need to do. First of all, establish that relationship that they had while sitting back home with those entities or individuals that are in charge of those projects and meet them in person, if possible, or call them and say, hey, I'm in town. We had a brief conversation a few months ago. I had told you that I was coming to Canada. Would you have maybe 5 or 10 minutes of your time I can spend just for a coffee and we just have a little chat, and I'm really trying to get into the market. I just need to know a little bit information from you. So you're kind of bringing the personal touch when you're coming into the business, but also the other areas is you talk to good recruiters. So recruiters have postings. Recruiters have taken those job requirements from HR and the clients. Their mandate is to basically qualify those niche candidates for those positions. So instead of going online and 1,000 resumes have been posted, 1,000 resumes have been applied to that position, they can go to a certain area. So they say, this is the perfect job. I don't have a contact there because unfortunately I couldn't meet that person. But that recruiter has posted this. So maybe he's an expert in that area and he could connect my thoughts to the client directly. So why not approach that recruiter and then call them directly and say, listen, this is my situation, this is where I want to go, and this is the area I want to focus in. And meet the recruiter, sit with them, get a personal touch with the recruiter. So there's so many different ranges and approaches that you can adapt to really get to your goal.
Okay, so it sounds like networking, which I always hear is very important.
Yep.
But you know what's interesting, because sometimes, like here in Canada, and I'm sure you know this as well, we have this attitude of everyone's approachable, just network. And I'm sure there's immigrants coming in from countries where that culture isn't like that, where maybe you're not supposed to, maybe they're more shy, maybe they're more reserved, maybe their reach to be able to network isn't as promoted as it is here. So let's say somebody comes here and maybe their language skills aren't there, maybe they're very, it's overwhelming, I'm thinking, for an immigrant. So do you think in that situation, is it best for them to, if they're applying to websites, and you're right, there's like thousands of resumes, 100%. Right? So it's like luck there. Yeah. Do you think maybe then, in that situation, they should just go right to a recruiting expert like yourself or an agency and go, listen, this is what I have to bring here. Help me. Find me somebody.
Right. It's important that they go to the specialists that do that on a daily basis.
Seriously, when I keep talking about this, I think of like those dating websites. But that's really what it's like.
That's true. And I think the idea is that you have to go to the recruiting specialists at times, because there are certain positions that the clients rely on the recruiters to fill as well. It's very important that when you're going to the recruiting agencies is to understand that the recruiting agencies have a lot of mandates. So one recruiter could have 20 jobs at this current moment, and he's kind of juggling between the jobs to see whether he can fill that position. So there could be a moment where the recruiter says, listen, I would love to meet you, come in, we'll meet you. But again, I can't promise you something right now because it takes time to convey that process and go through the process with the client. When you go to the recruitment specialist, you want to basically tell him that these are my areas of my focus, you meet them. But what's more important is give time for the recruiter to analyze your requirement, analyze the client's requirement, make sure that this is the right match in the right area, and the recruiter should convey that to the candidate, saying this will take a month, or 3 weeks, or 4 weeks. It depends on what you have in the pipeline.
I was going to ask you, what is the average amount of time it takes for somebody to get a job once they come to someone like yourself and say, can you match me up?
I have, for myself, my closure ratio in the recruiting industry is close to 80%. So 80% of the jobs that I get, I close within a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah,
But again,
So it really is worth for people to go to a recruiting expert like yourself.
well, it would help because what happens is I do this on a day-to-day basis. I'm building a network. I have in my network in LinkedIn approximately 22,685,000 people.
What?
Yes, so I
22 million.
in a network, not at the direct connections, but network in total. Now,
I was like, someone's popular.
well, you have to be active on social media, and again, I keep repeating, whether you have a language barrier when you're coming in this country, or you have issues communicating or nervous about communicating your skill set to clients and recruiters, you have to be very socially available.
Okay, well,
to see you.
Lots of great tips, and especially I'm thinking everyone needs to add you on LinkedIn. So we're going to talk about lots more tips, and we got to take a little break again.
Thank you.
So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to ATN. I'm your host, Dylan. All right, so we have just finished talking about strategy. Now, if you're just tuning in, we were talking about networking. Very, very important. Doesn't matter how old you are, what sector, networking is important. But if you are shy, or maybe you live in an area where you aren't able to have access, coming to experts like yourself is still very much valuable, right? So we were just talking about how you have a huge database on LinkedIn. Right. So if people want to, let's say, maybe they want to get a job, maybe you can help them out. So how can they get in touch with you? Is LinkedIn the best way?
LinkedIn would be another way. Ameet ATN, if you actually search my name.
Yes. And get on LinkedIn too. So
LinkedIn,
if you learn,
create a profile, get visual. It's very important. You can also be on Twitter. Create a profile for yourself, your aspirations, your personality.
I wouldn't think of Twitter. Okay.
Yeah, Twitter is important because Twitter also identifies your personality in a way where how you are, how vibrant you are, how you approach your life. And a lot of recruiters actually identify those kind of personality traits from Twitter and then connect to LinkedIn. So it's interesting how I look at things because every social media has its own element.
See, that's interesting because, I always hear from some people, I have friends in all different sectors. Some of them, let's say if they're in government or anything politics-wise, they're very careful to not have any presence on the internet, right? Because they don't want their personality. They don't like to post anything other than official things. Well, some people are just so open that you get to know them professionally and personally. So what are your recommendations for people that are worried that, I don't want a recruiter or somebody else to look at my Facebook profile or, my Twitter and see I've been tagged in something or someone sees me out and think, make a judgment call.
My suggestion is whether you're a senior level executive or you're a junior level individual, it doesn't matter. It's always your professionalism and your knowledge should be shared with individuals. I always believe that if you are engaged with you, it's about your knowledge that you share with individuals. The only way people can see you in a way is social media. And if you can portray that, it gives so much of assistance to younger generation to try and reach your level. So you have to have that mindset coming forward rather than a defensive mindset. So
you gotta love how things have changed, right? I remember when I was in school, social media wasn't big. I think Facebook just came around, and now it's like if you're not on something, it's like you don't exist. So it's funny. A quick question for you: how many times have you actually found somebody on social media and you just discovered them, and you're like, this person would be perfect for a job?
75% of my job closures of candidates are from LinkedIn.
From LinkedIn, okay.
So LinkedIn has been my primary source, and LinkedIn has really cool tools as well. They have recruiter functions, they have various marketing tools. There's so many things you can do. You can create a group, and these are good elements for you to get recognized out there. So again, I have my own database, my own network, and LinkedIn. There's two things that I know is just recruiting and technology, and I've tried to merge together the right solution that I'm going to be bringing up soon.
Fantastic. Now, you're actually working on something really exciting. You actually are coming up with a recruitment system that enhances the whole process of recruiting, right? And this is coming up really soon, April, I'm hearing.
Close to April, yes.
Okay, so tell us about it.
So it is, a lot of recruiters and HR individuals use ATS systems, which is applicant tracking systems, for tracking candidates and automating the process. What I did is trying to eliminate not ATS, enhancing the ATS. Eliminate the Boolean search, which is the search string that you do to search for jobs or candidates. So what we're doing is we're introducing the first recommendation algorithm.
Okay.
So when you post a job, it has certain inbuilt fields. So when you really post it on your portal and somebody applies for it, they have the exact fields, and we match those fields and give them ratings by color. So it's a lot of AI, BI. So when you come into a job early in the morning and you're looking, you're posted a job, right? And you're looking for the right candidates. What you're really looking for is, what are my green candidates? What are the yellow candidates? What are the red candidates? So really this is going to signify the greens, the yellows, and the red based on personality, based on skill set, based on attitude.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of R&D and research that me and my team have been doing.
I was going to say, to be able to get all that.
A lot of that. And I've tried to combine personality touch onto technology, including the skill set touch into technology. So it's going to be the first one in the world that really is going to change the perception of how recruiting should be carried forward on the system.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to launching it, and I'm really looking forward for people to test it. I have the beta version on my LinkedIn profile, so they can obviously sign up on the link, and it should be all there. And if you have any questions, you can always reach me. And the idea is, my main goal is I came as an immigrant. I'm a chef by profession.
Yes, you're mentioning that. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, so I came, I went to Switzerland, I did my hospitality degree, and then came to Canada. And now I'm basically into technology recruitment because I evaluated my niche skills and within me and said I can achieve what I want to achieve. And I think every single immigrant in Canada can achieve what they want to be.
Absolutely.
So never limit yourself.
I love it. You're just a great example of somebody who came here and is living the dream, doing what you're passionate about. So fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in, sharing some tips. And of course, check him out on LinkedIn or give him a call if you have any questions or if you want more advice. Thanks so much for watching. You're watching ATN. I'm your host, Ameet Dylan, signing off.